Hey everybody, and welcome to the show. We have a great one for you today because we get to discuss a couple of different really important topics that I think you're really going to want to know. The first one up, we're going to talk about autonomous vehicles and current regulations. Sounds kind of boring, but actually really important because really think about it. How many laws do we actually need for autonomous vehicles versus humans? Are they compatible? And what is it going to look like going into the future? So we're going to discuss that. Also, we're going to take a look at the Chevy Bolt, talk about the differences between that and the Model Y. Is this the Tesla killer that everybody has been waiting for? We're going to talk about that and much more on the show. I have my boy Tone Love here. Yo. We're going to talk about all of that, much more. Stick around. Don't forget to look in the description below to see how you can get some great discounts on Tesla accessories. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you back in just a moment. Okay, there have been several videos on the internet that I'm sure you've actually seen where you have an autonomous vehicle, whether it be Tesla or Waymo, actually goes and run by a school bus for whatever reason. I believe I did a video on this a little while back by our friend Dan O'Dowd, and well, we debunked that one. But nevertheless, there was a Tesla that ran by a bus, even if it was staged. Yeah. We'll go with that. Any case, not too long ago, what really brought this to the forefront was that there was a Waymo in Atlanta that actually drove by an active real school bus with real kids getting off the bus, and the Waymo actually drove around the school bus and drove down the street.
Right, while it was still had the stop sign.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it caused such a commotion such that legislators are starting to get involved, and they're calling this really unsafe behavior, and they want new legislation to regulate autonomous vehicles, all sorts of stuff. But here's the thing, right? Do we really need it? I mean, do we really think this through? I mean, think about it for a second. Why do we have such laws on the books? And the answer is that people are flawed, and they could get near a school bus and they may not see a kid drive and hit them. Right. And that is a very legitimate concern, truth be told, okay? Because we're all human. We make mistakes. We may not see them. We don't have eyes in the back of our heads or on the side of the vehicles. We don't have that as humans.
Right. And plus we're distracted a lot of times, with the phones and things like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
However, autonomous vehicles don't have this problem. They literally can see 360 degrees around the vehicle. It's checking every few nanoseconds, or milliseconds, looking for an object in its path. Mm-hmm. And so if a kid were to jump out in front of an autonomous vehicle, would it hit the child? And that is the question that I think really needs answering here. Is it really a danger for an autonomous vehicle to drive by a school bus?
Well, my thoughts on that is that there's a lot of variables. Like a kid can dart out last minute, but in most states, they slow down the school limit, the speed limit in the school zone to 25 or 15 miles an hour. So theoretically, it should already be going slow enough so that even no matter what darts out, it should be able to have a pretty short stop.
And that's a viable concern. So the question is, if we were to limit the autonomous vehicle and say, okay, the autonomous vehicle recognizes the school bus. Let's say it's able to go around the school bus at 5 or 10 miles per hour. Mm-hmm. And that would give it more than enough time to stop the vehicle. Now, we would not trust a human to do this, obviously, because the moment you tell them 5 or 10 miles an hour, they're going 20.
Yeah.
And they may or may not see, and they'll just keep on running. Boom, boom,
right.
Like, ooh, I ran over something.
Right. I'm not going to jail today.
Correct.
Yeah.
But an autonomous vehicle does not have these constraints, nor do they have these types of limitations. So do we need different laws for autonomous vehicles?
I think that to put the public, because it's also the public opinion. So there's the actual, concerns. Well, it's the actual programming of it, but then it's the perception, public perception, I should say. So the perception is that computers are less skilled at driving at this point than humans. So that's the perception. You look at all the different Waymo accidents and, mishaps where Waymo will just get stuck in the middle of a street because it's really just waiting for people to like get off the road. But they're like, oh, it's stuck there. And it's like, well, no, it's standing in front of it. So yeah, it would sit there. You don't want it to maul you over, right?
It's a little conservative.
Yeah. So people have to first have the trust in, because right now public perception is that computers are not as capable of driving as a human being. So it's that perception side of it. The laws, in terms of legislating everything, it's hard because if you try to over legislate, then we can't move forward. But at the same time, we just have to have enough where there's a balance where people are saying, okay, this is safe enough. Maybe in a school zone, it will automatically, you're forced to grab the wheel.
Okay, so we're not even gonna talk about school zones per se.
Okay.
We're just talking about a school bus in the middle of the street. It could be a street where you're doing 35 miles an hour. School zones are a whole other ball game right now,
Okay.
and that is a concern as well because you're supposed to be obeying 25 miles per hour in there.
Right.
The autonomous vehicles are supposed to be obeying 25 miles per hour. So the question is really, is the technology good enough to protect a child getting off a school bus?
Well, I believe the technology is there. One of the concerns that a layperson who is not a programmer such as us, well, you don't call yourself a programmer, but you
not
are.
Anymore.
Yeah. By inserting AI, because I know like Tesla has inserted Grok into its system. Their thing is, okay, well, Grok one day, or AI one day say, you know what, screw this. I'm going in. I've made an executive decision here. I'm just going to maul people over. And I'm 500 points a person.
Well, we have people like that too.
That's true.
Just saying. Thus far, we have not seen it out of our computers yet. Skynet is not active yet.
Skynet is online.
That might be a little bit too old for some of our viewers out there, but watch the Terminator.
Watch Terminator series.
Yeah.
Skynet is online today. I don't care. Grok is Skynet.
Maybe
Elon is T1000. He's actually not even human.
So what we have are legislators that are trying to legislate autonomous vehicles under old, antiquated rules that are based for humans. And so we've really got to start changing our mindset and start looking at what is overall safe.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, whether people want to believe this or not, some of the autonomous systems, Tesla being one of them, contrary to popular belief and some to the chagrin of the likes of Dan O'Dowd, Tesla and the like have very safe autonomous records, okay? Mm-hmm. Self-driving all over the place with no problem. In fact, they avoid more crashes than they ever cause. And in fact, nobody really knows how many crashes they actually cause.
Right.
There are a lot of data on how many accidents occurred while it was engaged.
Right.
But very few, if any of them, actually says, okay, FSD was the cause. Okay. Mm. So we've really got to separate that out.
That's a good point.
And because it also doesn't really matter, because even when you add in all of the incidents that happened during an FSD engagement,
right,
the vehicle is still 10 times less likely to get into an accident than with just a human driving.
Right.
So even if you were to blame every single last one of those accidents on FSD, which it shouldn't be,
right,
you're still 10 times safer.
Wow.
This is the data out of Tesla after 9 billion miles on the road of autonomous driving. You're 10 times safer with FSD engaged than with it.
Well, again, it's about public perception. If the perception is, well, I could die in this, in an FSD scenario, then it's dead in the water. And then you have Tesla who is putting out this data. But the thing is, do you trust Tesla? Tesla is self-certifying their own record. So we need a third-party auditor that the public would know and trust. Just come and say, okay, this is what Tesla's doing. These are how many accidents have happened with FSD engaged. These are the number of travels with FSD that were okay. Here's the percentage. Here are the facts.
Well, in theory, that would be the state agencies. But quite frankly, a lot of the federal rules for autonomous vehicle accident reporting data has been neutered by your good friend
Trump. So the Trump administration, of course, has been dismantling the Department of Transportation, and
basically every department.
Well, every department. Yeah, that's true. That's true, and it's up. I guess they're giving it to the states,
but the states can only report on what's legally required to report on,
right.
Such as Texas. What's going on in Texas right now? They have to report autonomous vehicle accidents or incidents and things of that nature. So yeah, it's on a state level for sure.
Yeah.
And even that data pretty much supports the autonomous vehicles.
Right.
Contrary to the videos that most have seen out of Robotaxi online. I mean, you've probably seen Robotaxi in a slight fender bender with another vehicle in a parking lot, or you may have seen it having an issue with a UPS truck, something of that nature. At the end of the day, the Texas Department of Transportation only reports one incident or accident with a robotaxi vehicle in the state of Texas.
And that's a big state.
It is.
And there's a lot of autonomous drivers.
Well, we're talking Tesla robotaxi.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is with them operating robotaxi since June. They've only had one incident.
Mm-hmm.
And
was it fatal?
No. In fact, they didn't actually, they do keep track of fatalities. It was not fatal.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing that incident was the one where it basically rubbed up against another car in a parking lot. Okay. So that's what we're talking here. And when you rack up those kind of miles with those robotaxis and to say you only have one incident,
it's less than 1%. Yeah.
There you go.
That's true.
Waymo's had a few more. For the year, last time I looked, they had 85. But they also have several more vehicles in Austin.
Yeah.
They also have several more vehicles around the state. They also have a lot more miles. And let's face it, the software is not as good. It's not. Sorry.
So you are still saying that Tesla is superior to Waymo's technology?
Oh, absolutely.
Was it Lidar?
Lidar.
They lying? Lidar. They're lying.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it is. Tesla is absolutely superior, and especially with version 14 releasing as we speak. They've just released 14.2, I believe, today, believe it or not. For those that don't know, 14.2 is going out, and it's a significant improvement, and it's a lot better than anything Waymo has, guaranteed. So from a safety standpoint, even Waymo's safer than a human driver.
Right.
Okay. So let's start there. So do we need the same set of rules for a Waymo that we need to have for Tone's driving?
Well, first of all, I am a superior driver. Like, they should model the AI.
Excuse me.
They should model AI after my driving. Like, I've been driving forever, and I'm human. Who can be better than Tone driving? Like, come on. See, I'm gonna come out with Tone AI. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in your car.
You're still here?
Yeah, amazing.
You're still alive?
Yeah. That's something. So the question becomes whether or not Waymo should fall under those same rules. Waymo, Tesla, whomever should fall under those same rules as, say, Tone. Because humans can and do make mistakes. It's possible for an AV to make a mistake, but it's highly, highly, highly unlikely. So we've really got to start looking at the laws that are on our books. And I use the school bus as an example of that. But if you really think about it, there are several more laws that you can look at to adjust, because the benefit of adjusting these laws actually cuts down on congestion on the street that a lot of these laws, create. Like when you have a school bus going down a road and it stops all the traffic for like 2 or 3 minutes, in really busy places, it tends to start stacking up.
Oh, yeah.
And you keep doing that going down the road, it really starts to slow things down.
Yeah.
So it may seem like a really small thing, But these little small things tend to add up over time. It really creates havoc during rush hours. Another one that you should really think about. Why do you need to have signs that say no right turn on red?
Well, you still need those signs for humans.
You need them for humans, but do you need it for an AV?
Do you need it for an AV? Yes.
Why?
Because the human, although the AV, the AV, autonomous vehicle, okay, the AV may know when to make a right, but the human the human that's coming straight on still is human. And they still.
But that's the whole point of the sign in the first place, because if you don't see that person or you don't know he's coming, the person that's driving down that has the right of way,
that has the right of way.
He's just driving.
Right.
Even if he's speeding, he's just driving a straight line.
Right.
The concern is that if you try to make a right turn on red,
you're running to the one with the right of way. Right.
Correct. Because you're not able to judge how fast he's going. You're not able to see him very well.
Right.
Whereas the AV can.
The AV can, and so the AV could take it, but see, another driver who maybe was going to make a left turn decides that he wants to go straight again. The AV has already made that turn. And so
but the AV can adjust to that.
Maybe.
It can definitely adjust.
Maybe, because you still got the human who may still run into him. It can try to adjust, but there's only so much road.
I'm not saying that it's going to be perfect in every single scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, it wouldn't be perfect in where you have an imperfect human that's going to hit you no matter what.
Right. And guess who's going to get the blame?
Well, there's that.
Yeah, the AV is going to get the blame.
At least the AV has the cameras.
True, but the AV is it's public perception. There's the reality and there's public perception. So the rules have to be there for the public perception.
And that's where I disagree.
Okay.
Public perception is one thing, but at the end of the day, what we're shooting for is safety. And that's what matters. What is the safest thing to do? Mm-hmm. You know, you can have the perception all you want. And granted, that's a political thing that needs to happen, is the perception piece.
Right.
But if we're really truly talking about safety, I would much rather have the computer looking over my shoulder and go ahead and make that turn rather than me trying to do it. I mean, I have to crane my neck over and really stretch my neck over and try to see the car. I may
oh my God, not your neck stretching over.
He could be in my blind spot. I don't know. I may not see him. And those are the issues that you have to deal with. Whereas the AV can actually see all the way around. It can see the vehicle coming and it can make decisions a lot quicker than what a human could. So, I mean, something as simple as no turn, right turn red, no left turn on red. Why not? If it's safe to go, why not go?
Again, I think I think we're not there yet from a community, from a nation standpoint.
From a perception standpoint.
Correct. That's what I mean.
And this is why we're having this conversation, because it's all about perception. Exactly. Whereas in reality, we need to be talking about what's safe.
I agree.
Exactly. And this is where we need to start talking to our politicians and start having testing to say, okay, what is the safe thing to do? What is going to move our traffic along? If we have an AV and it comes along to a left turn and the AV determines it's safe to go, why not let it go? I understand you not want a human to do it because the human may make the incorrect decision.
Right.
But if you have a computer that's making the decision, that's already looking at everything around it.
Right. 6 different cameras and making decisions in milliseconds.
We've all have had to get up early for work in the morning and go to work at 4:30 in the morning. Well, for some of us, you get up, well, not for my New York friends up there. You get up so early in the morning, there's nobody on the road.
Right.
Nobody. Then you come up to a stoplight. And that stoplight is going to be red for you. You just turned red and you're going to sit there feeling like an idiot sitting there at this red light. And there's literally not a car on the road except for the cop waiting for you around the corner.
Right. I literally do not run lights. I will sit there. I ain't got time, you know, because I have been accused of DWB.
Oh boy.
And I am not getting pulled over for DWB. Driving while black. Not happening. I will sit, that light will, I'll make a right turn if I need to.
We've had that happen.
I will make a right turn if that's what it needs to do.
Tint your windows.
Yeah. Tint my windows? Oh, that's even worse. That's even worse. Oh yeah, no. I rolled down that window and it was tinted. Oh, they're bringing in the dogs. You know, keep tapping the car until the dog says, "Oh, we got a hit. You're gonna have to get out the car, sir."
Dang. Well,
anywho,
So you come up to the four-way stop at a red light at 4:30 in the morning. There's nobody around. Why can the autonomous vehicle not go? Because you as a human can say, oh, I don't see anything around. In the moment you start moving, bam.
Right.
I didn't see him. I didn't know he was there.
Right.
The autonomous vehicle does not have that problem. It can see another vehicle coming. It can go right on through the light. And I think those are the kind of conversations that we need to start having, because in the very not too distant future, we're going to have AVs all over the place.
Right.
Right now, you only see one here, one there, somewhere in that neighborhood. But let's face it, Tesla Robotaxi is bringing really cheap fares for people to take these AVs all over the city. And that's going to become the main way a lot of people are going to get around. You remember the old pictures from the old days? You used to see New York City with all the taxi cabs lying in the streets.
Oh, yeah. It's just miles and miles and nothing but yellow cabs. Yeah.
Imagine if all of those yellow cabs were able to move in unison all at once. They were able to go through all the stoplights all at once without having to stop for the stoplights, and they all just make the decision on their own.
It would look like the Jetsons.
It would look like the Jetsons.
Except for on the ground.
And you have a much more efficient transportation system. Yeah. So all of this traffic that you're having to deal with in downtown areas and things of that nature, when these AVs, not if, when these AVs start to take over in these cities, we need to have comparable laws to facilitate their driving around the city.
You know what? You got a point, because as I think about it, if we wait, we need to start having these conversations now, because if we wait until it's already going, now we're behind, now we're reactive.
Correct.
That's a good point. Okay.
So
I'm sold on that. Okay.
So I'm an advocate for, let's start some of the testing now. So, let's start seeing what happens when we let some of these AVs make a right turn on red when they're not supposed to, or make a left turn. Let's start testing those ideas out. Let's start gathering the data so that our legislators can make some informed decision and not make some boneheaded one based off of feelings, off of what a human should do.
Yeah.
Let's make the
and
decision.
the perception.
And the perception.
Yeah.
Let's go off of what is the safe thing to do. Yeah. Because I really do believe an AV should be able to go around a school bus at the proper speed in the amount of time that it has time to react to a kid running out in the middle of the street. And I would be a lot more comfortable with an AV in that scenario rather than a human.
Well, in a scenario like that, I feel like, humans oftentimes, they'll go based off of another car. So, in other words, you could see someone who makes an illegal turn on red, and the person behind them may go ahead and make that too, because they saw the person in front of them do it. And so if that AV does it, it tries to go around, the human may say, oh, well, they did too, so I'm just go ahead and do it.
Well, you bring up a very valid point. And in certain countries and with certain AVs, the alleviation to that is on the outside of the vehicle, they have started putting lights to let you know that this is an AV vehicle. Some AVs have blue lights on them to let the person behind them know that this car is being driven autonomously. This is not a human driving.
Right.
And in that scenario, you would know, say, hey, this one's marked. Let's say you turn your FSD on in your Tesla and you let go of the wheel.
Right.
Maybe your
lights are blue.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe your tail lights turn blue.
How about I thought of that when I was a child.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's crazy. It was, the blue lights, and I was like, well, the blue lights, they can drive in a certain lane because they're all in unison.
I think that's where we're going, but we don't have the infrastructure for that yet. We're still trying to get by the HOV and Peach Pass lanes.
Yeah, it's true.
Exactly.
And trying to get Peach Pass and Sun Pass to link properly.
Yeah. So I really do believe we will have an AV lane probably in the next 20 years. Yeah. But in the closer in term, you just mark the AVs and say, hey, these guys are able to go ahead and not violate, but they operate under a different set of rules than if you were to have non-AV vehicles rolling around. And so I think that's where we need to go. Those are kind of conversations, especially on the state level, that need to be held on a daily basis at this point, and start figuring out which rules they need to start taking a really close look at and start bending and start testing and see what we can do about that.
Right. Well, guys, I think you guys should chime in on that, because it's a really interesting conversation that I don't think a lot of people are having, and we should start having these conversations.
Absolutely. So let us know what you think down in the comments below, whether or not you think this is a great idea. What other rules you think might be applicable to AVs that may not be applicable to humans. Give us some ideas here and let's see if we can get this ball rolling and see if we can help alleviate some of this congestion.
Absolutely. I'm with it.